All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition of the program. Welcome into Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. And look, this is not the show you want to be doing. Not necessarily because of the result, although this is a result-oriented business and you want the results to be wins. But this is a game on Sunday that you went into with such hope that progress had been made. There was very little to dispute that Pittsburgh is a team that can go win a Super Bowl. I mean, I picked them to win the North. I think you did as well. So we knew who they were. We knew how good they were. You knew what Big Ben would do for them. We've seen what Chase Claypool would be. You knew that they'd be able to get after the quarterback, blitz the way that they do. You knew their two edge guys were as good as they were. They were a known commodity. What you were hoping from our perspective was that we had closed the gap to them. And unfortunately, what happened on Sunday was not that, was not a closing of the gap. And worse than that, and what makes it so frustrating, I think, for all of you and all of us here on a Monday, is you didn't get an opportunity to, because the game was cooked by the time you get the ball the second time. It felt like it was out of reach almost immediately because of what happened early in this game. And so that's the part. You didn't get a chance to go toe-to-toe to them and have your guys play under pressure in a third and fourth quarter at Pittsburgh. And that type of – I didn't need us to win at Pittsburgh. I wanted it desperately. I was so excited for this game. I wanted it desperately. But I wanted to go toe-to-toe with them in the third and fourth quarter of a game, and that didn't happen. And that's the part that's troubling to me, Z.
Well, yeah, I think you said it exactly right. Look, big picture, we're 4-2. Big picture, we have taken care of the four teams we were supposed to take care of. We have lost to the two teams we were supposed to lose to in terms of, Vegas being favorites, etc. To your point, progress clearly has been made with this organization and with this team. Not enough, though, against what you would call the barometer, what the bar is, the measuring stick in not just, I would say, the AFC North, because quite frankly, outside of Kansas City, I truly believe that Pittsburgh and Baltimore are the measuring sticks, along with Tennessee, of the AFC, period.
Yes.
Then you'd put Buffalo in
NFL.
there, would be next. Really, in the NFL, yes, I think that right now you would say the best teams in the league are residing in this conference, in the AFC, and two of them happen to be in our division. And we both thought the Steelers were the best team in our division coming into this. It was just disappointing as you said, that it was kind of over before it started. And in a weird way, it mimicked very much what happened in Baltimore. Your opening possession, a slant moving from left to right, a coverage that your quarterback does not see. In the case of Baltimore, it was Calais Campbell in a zone dog dropping off into that throwing lane. And in this case, it was them playing a cover one robber, where Minkah Fitzpatrick's sole job was really to come down and read the eyes of the quarterback. Unfortunately, he did just that. Baker didn't see him, and it's a pick six. And so games that you went into with high hopes, ready to prove that you can compete with these teams, were really, you were rattled. And it happens to the best. Anybody who watched Green Bay, Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay was up 10-0. They were rolling. Aaron Rodgers throws a pick six and then another pick, and they were done. That was it. And good night, Irene. Didn't score another point. And that's Aaron Rodgers. So this was just a situation where, again, you were not able to come out and execute. And the questions that you had about this football team going into this game, could you throw yourself to victory? Could you play from behind and have to become more of a drop-back-oriented offense? Those questions still exist. Now, the answer, if you had the magic 8-ball right now, it would say, appears not yet, because of those are the two. You have a clear script that you need to follow to victory. And in this one, you were down 24-0 before, you really could blink. And that was it. That was the game. It was just watching it. It was in some ways disheartening in the sense that, look, 1 for 12 on third down, 0 of 3 on 1 for 15. And this is against the Steelers D that had been giving up 50% conversions on third down coming in. So you're in the bottom of the league. And you were not able to convert on third down. You weren't able to convert in situations where, for the most part, they knew you were passing and you had to be successful anyway. Then you get in some of those short-yarded situations. They dominate. Look, the Pittsburgh Steelers are better than the Cleveland Browns right now. That was a better team. You have to, at some point, it's not all about us. Sometimes it is about them, and they are good. The
They're good.
physicality with which they play at the point of attack, you don't see in the rest of the NFL. I don't know how it looked to you on TV, Beau, but in person, their get-off and their initial collision when Dupree and Hayward and Watt and Alalu and Tuitt hit you, it's different than anybody else in the league.
It looked like a freight train. I mean, they looked like a freight train. They wrecked things right away at the point of attack. Their physicality was eye-opening. I mean, I knew they were good. They just hadn't played anybody that was really good to this point. Houston being the most equal adversary that they'd played, but obviously Houston's having their issues. But they hadn't played anybody really good yet, so I just was curious to see what it would look like, and yet I still knew exactly what they were, and they showed it. I mean, they don't hide who they are. They've run the same defensive scheme for 30 years. It's the same thing over and over, and they draft to it, and they develop to it, and they just keep bringing them in. I mean, if you think about, we had on, was it Eric Metcalf last week when we were talking, he was talking about Greg Lloyd.
Yeah.
I mean, how many Greg Lloyds have come through there in the last 30 years? How many? I mean, now it's Watt and Dupree, but it was Woodley, and it was Kevin Green, or it was James Harrison. Like, they always have those guys who are just game wreckers, and they've got two of them on the edges, and then Cam Hayward's as good as it gets on the defensive front. So you have those three guys at the point of attack. And look, a lot of attention obviously giving to the quarterback position. You mentioned the down and the third down, fourth down, the turnovers, all of that stuff. This was an eye-opener for our offensive line as well in this game in terms of – and this was the first time that we haven't been able to run the ball. I mean, even against Baltimore, we were able to run it a little bit. Now, some of that is circumstance, like you're down 10-0 before you can blink and you have to chase the game a little bit. But we couldn't manufacture points when we desperately needed to at 10-0. We couldn't manufacture drives, and a lot of the credit for that is them. They're really good. They're one of those teams. There's 5, 6 teams who can win the Super Bowl. They're one of them.
So I wrote about, in leading up to this, the ground supremacy, and that, we were one of the best run offenses. Obviously, we're the number one ranked from a stat standpoint, but also, we got in some of those next-gen stats, expected yards over, or rush yards over expectation. The Steelers were as good as the Colts. And you remember when we played the Colts in that first half, we averaged 2 yards a carry. You had nothing going on the ground against the Colts, but you did have some success throwing it. This one, first half, 12 carries, 44 yards, 3.7 a carry. Kareem Hunt ran his butt off, by the way.
Yes, he did.
You can't run any harder than Kareem Hunt ran. But they're great at that. And then they get you in situations where you've got to throw the ball. And this was not a great performance. This was not a great performance on offense. It was not a great performance from our quarterback. And when you watch the tape, you see, things that you hoped you did not see. There still were, again, opportunities for plays to be made in the passing game against this vaunted Steelers defense. And you didn't capitalize on them. And when you start a game, and this is what's crazy to me, you start a game, interception, 3 and out, 5 plays, 21 yards. You did get 2 first downs, punt. 5 plays, 12 net yards, punt, interception, 4 plays. You had, by the time the score was 24-0, you had amassed 4 first downs on offense.
Yeah,
you can't play that way. You can't play that way.
No. And so that's the part that's humbling, is that when you've played the best in this league, they're quite a bit better. So we've seen that twice. We've seen that with Baltimore, and we've seen that with Pittsburgh. What we've also seen is that when we beat teams we're supposed to beat or that we are of like to, we've gotten those wins. And so while the sky feels like it's falling today, you are 4-2. The stated goal here is to make the postseason. You're on track to do that. You play 2 teams the next 2 times out. We'll get to that with Cincinnati and Las Vegas, that you should be able to beat both of them. Vegas is playing a lot better than they were.
Yes.
Cincinnati's a full day too, but you should be able to win the next 2 games. And now you're talking 6-2. You're going to forget about this stuff. But it is dispiriting to come in on a Sunday and not be able. Again, it wasn't important for me as an observer and fan and lover of this franchise and this team. Well, that important for me at this part of our gestation period to go beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. I wanted it desperately.
Same.
That wasn't that important to me. What was important to me was that it was a slugfest, that you could go toe-to-toe to them in the third and fourth quarter, and instead what we got was, and Ben said this post game. I mean, it said it was like having the bus back there, and they just ran it 20 times in the second half. From 8 minutes in, they just ran the clock out, and that is what's disappointing.
They had the ball for 20 minutes in the second half. 20 minutes and 19 seconds in the second half out of the 30. It was, and what you wanted to say is, okay, here's the change. You may not have beaten you, but you're going to respect us and look at us as an equal, and you're going to know that we can beat you. And coming out of this, that message was not delivered. And the Steelers, and maybe that'll make them rest on their laurels when they come here, and that's fine. But that message was not delivered. And you go back, let's just talk first quarter for 1 second, because this to me is so important. The first drive, I thought our defense did a great job holding them to a field goal. That's a kind of a momentum getter for the defense, right? They move it down the field.
I stood up. I'm clapping. I'm giving standing ovation. I'm like, field goal, win.
Win. Absolutely.
Win. Huge win. Yes.
Then the pick six happens. Our defense then on the very next two possessions and 6 plays allowed a grand total of -6 yards.
Yeah.
So the first quarter ends and we're down 10-0. But our defense gave us opportunities. Our defense, again, provided the offense with 3 possessions without a score happening, because you got the possession immediately after the interception. Then you forced the 3 and out. You get another possession where, unfortunately, you went 5 plays, 21 yards, you punt. They force another 3 and out. And on that third possession, 5 plays, 17 yards, and you ended up punting. What was critical about that juncture from the end of the first quarter and the second, your field position started at the 36 and the 46, your own. You got into Pittsburgh territory on both of those drives and netted nothing. And then they finally went on a 7-play, 73-yard drive that led to a touchdown, and then it was 17-0. And I think at that point, your will started to, as a defense, go away. Here's something to keep in mind. From the end of the middle of the first quarter against the Colts to the end of the first quarter against the Steelers, our defense didn't allow a single touchdown.
Yeah.
And you saw what Phillip Rivers did this past week against Cincinnati. Now, of course, other touchdowns were scored after that. But you have to play some type of complementary football. And when they're giving you 3 and outs and you're just giving the ball right back, it doesn't work. And the defense, I feel like, got worn down a little bit. And then that was it was curtains. But you still had a chance, and your defense still did enough, I thought, in that first quarter to give the offense a chance to get back into it. Your defense gave 3 points in the first quarter. 3 points and had 2 3 and outs.
The mash unit that Joe Woods is working with, and to be able to deliver that, and that Pittsburgh team's a full day.
Oh, yeah.
With the talent they have on the outside offensively, with Claypool and Connor are battering rams, man. Like, Claypool looks like DK Metcalf. I mean, those guys are just physical, strong. It's a full day to tackle them. It's a full day to take them on. And I thought our defense gave you, to your point, and it's a good one, it gave you every opportunity to be in the game and to make it a 4-quarter game, and you just could not get it done offensively.
No, you couldn't. And again, we take a step back. The sky is not falling. You are still 4-2. I think that there are issues underlying that currently are capping our ceiling. And you want to be able to break through that. And to break through that, that means you've got to be able to play with the big boys. You got to be able to play with the Ravens. You got to be able to play with the Steelers. And you're going to have another big boy team on your schedule this year, which is the Tennessee Titans in December. Those are the 3 real measuring stick teams. And you have 3 games left against them this year, because you have Tennessee and you still have Baltimore and Pittsburgh here. You've got to find a way between now and then to get to the point where you can handle those teams, look them in the eye, go toe-to-toe with them. And there are issues offensively, there are issues defensively that will help you get there. And it's crazy that we feel like, this is an offense that from after week 1, week 2 to week 5 was the leading number 1 offense in terms of basically every metric in the NFL, scoring, rushing, all of that. But the number 1 scoring offense in the league. We have just been, when we get out of our mode that allows us to win, it has been crushing. And when we talked, what do you want to see in the second quarter of this season? This team demonstrate the ability to win outside of that formula, which is going to come from growth at the quarterback position and growth from just what I would call the traditional drop-back passing offense. And we're still looking for that. We're 2 games in the second quarter of the season. We're still looking for that.
Yeah, You're exactly right. It's the one question that you thought would be answered. We talked about this a lot last week, guys, and we said, are we able to play from behind to go chase a game? And right now, the answer to that is no. Not against the best teams. We're not able to do that. We're not able to manufacture drives and points when we're behind, when a team is not worried about our ability to throw the ball down the field. So what you saw from Pittsburgh yesterday was an all-out assault of the quarterback in obvious passing downs and just an inability to make them pay for it. It happened over and over, time and time again. And we have, at this point, in terms of trying, the thing that stinks is you play in a division with 2 of the 5, 6 best teams in football. 2 of them are in here. So you're going to have to deal with them. You mentioned it. You got 3 more games like this. You talk about Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. That's the bad news. The good news is the rest of the schedule is one of the easiest in the NFL.
If
one
not
of the easiest in the NFL. Might be the. So you have 2 separate parallel planes. 1, go make the playoffs. 2, that on that separate parallel plane, the second thing is build a team that can beat those teams because they're your peers. They're the teams that are going to be standing in front of you to win the North, to win the AFC. That's the goal when you play in the league. Go win a Super Bowl. We got 2 teams in your division that show you what's necessary to do that. You played them twice. It hasn't gone well either time.
And you get an opportunity to learn from that and grow from that because and look, there are people, I was reading stuff today, which I couldn't even believe. I don't want us to go to the playoffs because we can't do anything in the playoffs. And a one-game scenario, anybody can beat anybody in the NFL. Little momentum, whatever happens right out of the gate can set a tone that can be difficult to overcome.
It's critical.
It's
not Super Bowl or bust.
No, let's get there. It's good experience. We're building.
Yes.
But when you look at the teams around, let's take the AFC, what we'll call the cream of the crop in the AFC, which I would say we'll leave it to for now. And Buffalo, I'll put in a separate category. For now, we'll say Tennessee, Pittsburgh, both undefeated, Ravens, 1 loss. Pittsburgh, can play under any game flow scenario.
Kansas City, right?
And Kansas City, I'm sorry,
Kansas City, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Baltimore.
Yeah, those 4. Kansas City can win under any game flow. We know that. They did it. Their whole playoff run, they were down 10. They won every game. Pittsburgh, I believe, when they have a healthy Deontay Johnson with Juju, Claypool, Washington, Ebron, if they need to throw it with Big Ben, they'll be able to. They haven't had to throw it yet this year. If they have to, they'll be able to. They can run it as well. We saw that from Connor. They now have a 100-yard rusher in 4 out of 5 games. Something we were sleeping on a little bit. Tennessee can absolutely win in any way. If they get ahead on you, it's a vice. And Ryan Tannehill, let me tell you, folks, is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, period. No caveats, no disclaimers. No, that's just period.
He should be an MVP conversation.
He should be.
And by the way, if you're indeed looking for a quarterback, it would make me want to go trade for Sam Darnold and just get him out of Adam Gase.
Adam Gase is right. It's the best thing to happen to Darnold stock. Yeah.
Right. Tannehill was done, man.
Done.
He was sent to the scrap heap. He's been incredible. Incredible. I was slow to it. You were on it. Credit. You were on it. He's incredible. He's playing at an MVP level.
He is. He's and again, they can win anyway. The one team out of those 4 that you have questions about, can they win under any formula, is the Ravens. They are not currently. They have not demonstrated an ability to play from behind yet. That's not their MO.
Not against the best.
They're great, though, at their MO and going out and running and taking leads. So they were a team that went 14-2 with some questions on how they were able to win. They could have gone through the playoffs, by the way, and gotten the lead in all of those games and had success with their formula and won a Super Bowl with it. They absolutely could have. It didn't work out that way for them. And Buffalo, I'd even say, with the evolution of Josh Allen as we're seeing, it feels like they can, but the one real example we've gotten of it this year wasn't good against Tennessee. They didn't have that ability. So I don't expect the Browns to be a perfectly complete team like some of those teams that we're talking about, and even 2 of those, what we'd call the top 5 right now in the AFC, including Buffalo, have their game flow issues scripts that they would prefer to follow relative to, a negative game script. There are questions, I would say, for this team right now about or maybe not questions. What is the roadmap to getting this quarterback comfortable and playing at the level that we need to be a team that can do that? Because the talent's there in the passing game, the talent's there up front. So how do we get there? And that's, That's why coaches are paid a lot of money. That's why quarterbacks are paid a lot of money. They've got to get together, and that's what they've got to figure out, because that really seems to be the last evolution for this team, to be able to go and say, you're not Big Brother anymore.
Yeah. That was the final evolution that we knew would be, you'd have to deal with it in this game. You knew it. And you've seen over the previous 4 games during the 4-game winning streak a very clear recipe for a lot of success.
Yep.
Get a lead, run it effectively, play action off of it, don't make mistakes in the passing game, and choke away games. We've seen that. When it comes time to make a big play, we were making the big plays. You think of those Ernest Johnson runs the last 2 weeks. You can make a big play on 3rd down. You can spring it. But you're playing from the standpoint of having the advantage. This was having to play from an incredible disadvantage. And it's right away. When it's 10-0 right away, you're up against it. You start to press, and you start to chase. And it was obvious. I mean, it was just very obvious. And I know that this is, you say, well, that's insane, Beau. It's 10-0. It felt over me at 10-0. It really did. And I know that seems crazy, but that's how it felt when that pick 6 went in, because I knew what Pittsburgh was going to be doing, and I just thought to myself, how can we chase? We haven't shown that yet, and it reared its ugly head yesterday.
And it was a self-inflicted wound.
Correct.
And that's, you look at now from the second half of the Indy game through halftime of this game, that's 4 interceptions for Baker Mayfield without a touchdown. And then he finally throws the touchdown to Higgins at the end. But through that stretch, that's what you had. You had 4 interceptions and not a lot happening on offense. And so it felt, when the pick 6 happened, I didn't feel that it was over at that point. But when the pick 6 happened and then your next possession was 3 plays for 1 yard, it started to feel, okay, this doesn't have a great feeling to it at that point. And then the defense gave you one more chance, and that's where I thought you could get back into it. Because remember, that possession, that's where you end up getting to, as we talked about, and I think a critical play in this game. You had started to run the ball more up the middle, and you got an 8-yard run on 1st down from Hunt. You had 2nd and 2 at their 37. You drop a play action out of a concept where Jarvis had kind of come in behind the tight end and the tackle, where he had blocked every time he'd been in that formation, and you ran a play action pass. And it was there, and that could have been a shot play. The trigger wasn't pulled, ends up being a sack. You're on 3rd and 11. The next ball's high over the head of Odell Beckham Jr., and then, boom, that was it. So you, again, still had chances because of the defense and what they were doing, and you just couldn't do it. And at that point, to me, at the end of the first quarter, that possession in particular, that was it.
Yeah, that was it. And it was even the touchdown to Higg. And at that point, I'm not looking for, when you come out to start the second half, knowing you have the ball, you get the touchdown to Higg right before half, it's 24-7, you know you have the ball. I'm saying, let's get back into this. Let's make Ben have to make some throws.
Yep.
Like, let's be able to go pin our ears back and go after it. And you come out of halftime and you have what happens after halftime. It's 3 and out, and it's like, boy, nothing. You can't get it going. Can't get your feet about you. And that's what was hard. It's not pouting over a loss. You and I talk about the look of it. Does it look right? And it didn't look right in a loss, and that's the part that's hard on this fine Monday.
No, and not only that, right after you scored, you get a quick 3 and out. You actually got the ball back at 33 seconds on your 40, with a chance to go maybe get a field goal, and instead you have a penalty that puts you behind, and on that 3rd and 1. That's one that they're going to watch tape and say, man, we've got to convert that. You maybe give yourself a chance to get a field goal, because you could have again, if you had gone touchdown, field goal, 10, touchdown, now it's 24-17. That's a realistic scenario, and that's what we had done all of the other weeks. It was the things that we had done before, scoring going into the half, scoring coming out of the half, which we had done really, counting our defensive score against Indy, we had done 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But you just, again, you go 3 and out, and then 3 and out in that first drive to start the second half. 3 plays, you had a penalty, you had a sack, you end up going negative 16 yards and punting it from your own 2. They end up getting the ball right there at the 45. They flip the field position. They score 1 possession later, and then that was it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And that's the hard thing. It's we talked all about, we wanted to beat Indy because I wanted to see how this team would respond in a big game at Pittsburgh. What's that look like? Like, are you ready to contend? And the answer right now is no. And now the question is, can things? Here's the good news here, guys. Here's the good news. there are plays to be made. There are plays to be made in this offense. There are recipes for you to be able to hang with Pittsburgh and beat Baltimore. This reminds me very much of the Monday show we had after Baltimore.
Totally.
Very similar feeling I had after that. The difference was you played quick on a Thursday against Cincinnati. This time, it's a week before Cincinnati. But the same issues that occurred here,
100%.
And there is a roadmap out there for success. There is. It just has to be executed. But it's there, and there are plays.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where you're at.
So close.
Steelers, man.
So close.
Steelers.
It's I said in my post game. This is how I opened my post game video. Was it's Browns were 4-1, the Steelers were 4-0. We were expecting something different. This was going to be something we had not seen in a long time, and unfortunately, it was all too familiar a scene for a Steelers-Browns game. Yeah, it's just too much of it. Ohio Business Machine, those were the OBM Hot Topics, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. Have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Coming up next, you'll hear from the coach. He was at the podium. We'll have it for you up next. Off and running here on a Monday. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Northeast Factory Direct. And in fact, 21 years ago, Alex started out a small garage in Lakewood to celebrate those humble beginnings
in that garage, Alex is having a mattress garage sale. It's the same high-quality mattresses that they've always had, just even lower prices than normal, which is remarkable. Anything mattress-related, they're going to have you covered. Pillow top, memory foam, gel foam, all the sizes. They also have 0% financing available. And during the garage sale, get a Sierra Sleep Queen for just $3.99, a Kenilworth Queen pillow top for just $4.99, or an Oakmont Queen double-sided pillow top for just $7.99. They're in stock. They're ready to deliver, plus more great deals on mattresses and, frankly, everything, because everything's a deal at Northeast Factory Direct. Check them out. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, Freeway Drive in Macedonia, or the Clearance Center in Maple Heights, or online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. Coach Kevin Stefanski met with the media within the last hour. Let's have a listen to that.
Yeah, injury-wise, just
both down.
We really came out of it okay. Like we talked about yesterday, Baker is sore, but he's nowhere near sore how he was last Monday, so that's a positive. Don't feel much different than I did yesterday. Watch the tape, and I think there's just so many areas that we can improve. Defensively, we gave up some big plays early there in that second quarter, but those guys battled, didn't put them in some very good spots there. With the offense, not being able to get a first down on third or fourth down was very, very disappointing. And then we got to be better on special teams, particularly kickoff return. So a lot of things that we need to improve. And I think, my message to the team today is, number one, you have to own it. Number two, you have to learn from it. And then once you do those two things, you got to move past it. So that's what today is for. And the players are meeting with the coaches as we speak, doing those. With that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, Kevin, it sounds like you got a pretty good diagnosis for Baker and his ribs, his chest today. I was going to ask you, have you guys done any subsequent x-rays on him since the one you had immediately after the game last Sunday, the Colts game? And if so, have any of those scans, shown any kind of crack rib or broken rib or anything that might affect him?
Yeah, Jake, I wouldn't get into specifics of any player when it comes to those type of things. But I'm confident in our medical staff. I'm confident in Baker that he's going to, progress each one of these days and then get better.
Hey, Kevin, it seemed like yesterday you got away from the formula that had been working, stopping the run and taking the ball away and converting it into points. And you just comment, those things you feel like, are correctable right now?
Yeah, Fred, I think we got away from a lot of things that we were doing to win some ball games. And if you don't play clean on the road against a good team, you're not going to come away with a victory. And I think there are a bunch of areas that I could point to that we can do better. You mentioned not taking the ball away. I mean, that is part of who we are, and we didn't do it yesterday. So that will be the focus for us moving forward.
Kevin, I'm not actually a film guy, so I apologize if this question drives you crazy. But Baker was talking about the robber coverage from Fitzpatrick on the first interception. What does Baker or any quarterback have to do in that situation to not fall prey to that? It seemed like maybe the second slant to Odell behind it might have been open, but I guess they're trying to get Baker on that one, right? So what can you and Baker work on so that kind of thing doesn't happen again?
Yeah, that's something that we talked about right afterwards, Doug, looking at we don't have film, but you do have those surfaces that show you the still. So you could see that he was coming in there to lurk or rob or whatever you want to call it, and he was taking that away. So we need to move on in the progression, something that Baker understands and he will be better at next time.
And for any quarterback, it did seem like then maybe with Baker, if his eyes didn't see that on that play, then maybe there are some couple throws on the next couple drives where he doesn't make a throw because maybe he's not trusting his eyes there. When a quarterback makes a mistake, maybe you disagree with that. When a quarterback makes a mistake, what does he have to do to get past that? So if he made a bad read the first time, he can trust his eyes the next time he's looking for something.
Well, you said it, Doug. You have to trust your eyes. You have to process and believe what you see. And you got to do a great job pre-snap and post-snap to understand the coverage. So that's just part of playing quarterback and something that Baker's done a nice job of, and I think we'll continue to do.
Yeah, Kevin, the Pittsburgh and the Baltimore games kind of went the same way. Does it give your team and give you confidence that you guys, when this happened earlier this season, you bounced back in such a positive way, including your quarterback who played his best game of the year, coming off the Baltimore performance? And by the way, you're playing the same team that you did after the Ravens game.
I think that's such a big part of the NFL season, Jake, is you're going to lose some games. I mean, that's not many teams go 16-0. So what do you do with those losses? What do you learn from them? How do you respond? And I think we've already started talking about that, started talking about it on the sideline as the seconds were ticking off, talked about it in the locker room after the game, talked about it this morning, because this is what you do in the National Football League. You come back after a loss and you try to get better from it.
And Kevin, obviously with Baker playing through pain and, being limited in practice and throughout the week, do you second guess playing him at all in Pittsburgh?
Nate, I think it's a fair question, but I think, he was cleared. He was obviously sore throughout the week, but got better. It was incumbent upon myself and how we performed to keep him clean, and we didn't do that. But he answered the bell last week, and just in terms of how he went through and rehab and fought his butt off to get out there with his teammates on Sunday.
And when you say today that he's not nearly as sore as he was a week ago, does that mean you anticipate him to be able to do more in practice this week and expect him to go in Cincinnati?
I would. Yeah, I would expect that.
Coach, you said you told your team to own it, learn from it, and move past it. What did you learn from yesterday?
I don't have my notebook in front of me right now, but just so many things that I think schematically you look at them, you look at us. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I would tell you just there's plays that we ran yesterday that, I wouldn't run again. And there's things that I did yesterday that I wouldn't call again. And there's just so many little things that I learned a lesson, obviously in a hard way. But that's what you got to do. You got to say, all right, because we're going to see this team again, obviously. And we're going to play a game this Sunday, and we got to be ready to roll. So what can you do moving forward? And so much of it throughout the season is evolving, and we got to continue to make sure that we're evolving and getting better.
Tony Grossi has our next question.
Okay, I understand this sounds like an irrelevant question because of the score, but take me back to real time so I can understand the thought process. I once asked you about deferring at the coin toss, and you said it wouldn't be automatic, it would be game to game. Considering how well you play with a lead and how tough it is to play from behind in Pittsburgh, why didn't you take the ball first?
Yeah, Tony, I think we do talk about that each week. I will tell you the majority of the time we are going to defer, and just the reason being, I feel like you have more information later in the game towards halftime on what the team is doing. It does set you up for the double dip like we talk about. You score at the end of the half and you have a chance to come back in the third quarter. So it may not be 100% of the time, but we do think that deferring's usually the way that we'll go.
Okay. And the other thing is, much like in Dallas, it appeared like you were going to be aggressive offensively. I mean, he threw the ball and it was intercepted, and you're in a 10-0 hole before you even had a first down. And I asked you about holding the ball during the week and playing a possession game. Do you rethink that at all, or is that part of the plan that you think you made a mistake on at all?
Well, I think the possession game comes when you're able to convert on third and fourth down. So hard to play stall ball if you don't have the ball. So we got to make sure we convert on those. I mean, 0 for 3 on fourth down is not going to get it done. So time of possession typically means you're converting on third downs, or you're getting first downs on first and second down, obviously. But that was part of the plan, and we clearly didn't do a good enough job there.
Yeah, Coach, I know I asked you a little bit about Odell yesterday and some of the stuff that was happening on the sidelines in the second half, in the fourth quarter. My question today is, when a player has that much passion, that much desire to win, and displays it like
1 minute
on the sidelines, and it hurts so much, is that something that you want to harness? Do you appreciate it, or would you rather not have such an outward display of emotion? What's your take on that?
Yeah, Mary Kay, he wants to win very badly. His teammates know that. He's a passionate football player. He gets frustrated in a game like that, just like the rest of us do. And that's what I chalk it up.
30.
And he's going to work really hard this week to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Hey, Kevin, I just wanted to go through some injuries with you. Kareem looked like he fell on his shoulder early. Is he okay?
Yeah.
And how about Wyatt, Joseph, and Harrison? Any idea on this week?
All progressing. I'd say Harrison is working his way through.
Stand by.
Carl, I'll have updates here as we keep going. And then Wyatt's pushing hard. to make it this week. But with those type of injuries, you really don't know.
You're up. All right, good stuff from Coach there. And one thing on Odell, Mary Kay asked Coach about Odell and what he saw post game. The one thing I would say, and it's really about it's the result that's bothersome. It's not the targets or the not getting the ball. Like, it's not a selfish, I need the ball. It's we got smoked by Pittsburgh.
Yes.
That's frustrating. Like, we've given you countless examples this season of him going to celebrate with teammates who score, blocking. He does anything that's asked, right? It's the result. It's not that he doesn't get 12 targets. He didn't care about that. And I'm not saying Mary Kay was trying to insinuate that, but it's the losing that brings out the frustration. It's not the lack of productivity from him. The combination of the two, of course, would bring out the worst. But with the win, there's nothing. He's the first to celebrate with everybody.
Okay, I was there. I was right behind our bench. It is a very quiet environment. I don't know how many people they said. Gibbe, you might know how many people they said were in attendance there. But if our 6,000 is 6,000.
They said 6.
Okay, their 6,000 is about 100 people compared.
Really?
There was nobody there. It felt like there was absolutely nobody in that stadium. Very, very few people. So it was quiet, incredibly quiet, and they weren't piping in a lot of stuff. Renegade was cool. 6,000, maybe it's just because of that way that stadium is. It looked like there were very few people there. Very few. There's nobody in the upper, the whole place. Nonetheless, I was there. What Odell was fired up about had nothing to do whatsoever. It was not anything about me. It was not anything about getting me the ball. I need the ball. I'm open. None of that. It was him trying to fire up the offense and being like, let's go. Like, we are getting our butts kicked. We're better than this. Let's go. Totally. And the guys you talked to about it who have spoken, I know Jack Conklin spoke today about it, he was actually showing leadership. Now, at the end of the game, things end up getting a little bit more probably demonstrative than anybody would want and create situations that are perfect fodder for TV cameras, etc. And he was hot at that point, but he wasn't hot about it. Had nothing to do with, well, I needed 10 balls. It had everything to do with the fact that they went there. This was a huge stage for him, and probably the biggest game of his Browns career. And they wanted to win. He wanted to win. Jarvis wanted to win. All of them wanted to win badly. And it didn't happen. In fact, the opposite. They were dominated. The Steelers dominated the Browns.
Yep. Yeah.
And they're good. It happens.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are very good. If your Social Security benefits have been denied, call the disability lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk and Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. We'll take a look at the offense in general yesterday. Not a lot to like. What is there? What's salvageable? What can you use going into Cincinnati this week among the topics of conversation? Jake Trotter will join us at the top of the hour. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Raising Cane's on game day. Go for the win with Raising Cane's chicken fingers. Stack your roster with delicious hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers and cane sauce. It's the best. Huddle up with crispy crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, and buttery Texas toast. Top it all off. Freshly made tea and lemonade. The sweet tea, oh so good. Visit the newest Raising Cane's on Brook Park Road in North Olmsted. It's right behind Great Northern Mall. Do it now. You'll win. You all do when you eat Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's chicken fingers certainly is one love. All right, buddy. So we're talking about this offense here, and this was the last evolution that you're waiting for, and we're going to have to wait a little longer for it in terms of coming from behind, manufacturing offense, getting back into games. We're having trouble doing that. There is execution at fault here more than anything else. It's not personnel, it's execution of what is called, and there are plays to be made, and you just have to make them. Now the question becomes, how do you do that? How do you build that? You build that brick by brick. You build it, and this is what is a little disappointing too, because you felt like you were heading in the right trajectory. You look at that first half against Indianapolis, and you say, boy, that's what you can be offensively. You see this glimmer of okay, that is what it can be at its best. But you were smacked in the face a little bit with what happened in Pittsburgh yesterday. So how do you build that? Well, it's going to take repetition. You got Cincinnati this week. You got Oakland the week after that. Then you got the bye week. You've got a lot of time to get this right. You've got probably the easiest schedule in the NFL. 3 really gangbuster games left, but other than that, very, very manageable. So there's a lot of opportunity to get this right. What would be your first steps in addressing what's wrong and getting it right?
Well, we just have to figure out, I think the number one thing you need to improve on this team right now as it stands offensively, it involves the passing game. How can we be better in third down situations, which allow us to maintain possession and get the ball down the field? And we were very good on third downs against the Colts. We were terrible this week. When you're not good on third down, you lose. We were terrible against the Ravens as well. Those 2 games, you look at our third down conversions, dreadful. So it starts with how can we have to keep being good at what our system is, obviously, but we need to be able to have something beyond that when you can't play action bootleg. And I think it starts with me, a reintroduction of what I would call for Baker Mayfield to the middle of the field. You look at our game yesterday. So the way that they track direction, inside the numbers versus outside numbers right, outside numbers left. And if you think about where the numbers are, those aren't the hash marks. The numbers are pretty wide on the field. The vast majority of the field is in between the numbers. Baker Mayfield, 6 of his 18 attempts were inside the numbers. 0 passing attempts more than 10 yards in the air.
You said
between
6
the
of
numbers.
his 18?
Attempts, yes.
6 of 18 attempts were inside the numbers?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. 7 outside
Boy,
the right.
That's a lot of hard throws. That's a lot of hard throws.
Yes. And it also means you're not seeing
twice as many outs. Correct. That's twice as many throws outside the numbers than inside the numbers, which are all harder throws.
And then Keenum came in, and 6 of Keenum's 10 attempts were all inside the numbers. And now Case didn't set the world on fire, but he had a nice read to Jarvis, and he had one where he anticipatorily threw it to Odell. So I don't think that's necessarily a scheme issue. And I think if we go back and watch some of the plays that were there to be made, very much so, it involved the middle of the field. So what I think, I'm going to even take a step back. We need, when you have, for example, Drew Brees, when you watch their games on tape, there are always very well-defined blocking schemes that create throwing lanes and vision for him. And it seems that whether it's not trusting the eyes or not having the vision from a lack of lanes or manipulating the pocket himself to create those lanes, there is a disconnect with the middle of the field. And when you go back to 2018, in the second half of that year, he crushed it down the middle of the field, especially in that 10-plus yard range. And that's been
the
missing.
Thing that's difficult to wrap your head around because you've seen it, we've witnessed it. That's where he lived. His first throw in his very first game is to Jarvis over the middle he rips it.
Yes.
That's the guy we saw, and that's the quarterback rehabilitation that's being done here this year with Kevin Stefanski, is to get back to that, get back to seeing it and ripping it, and that middle of the field. you're putting yourself in a tough spot if you're going to play outside the numbers. It's really tough. I mean, all those throws are hard. Those throws, you have got to be on it. The timing's got to be right. You've got to have everything. Those are the toughest throws on a football field to make. And so if you're going to live out there, you've got to be elite, and it's a tough spot to want to make a living, especially when the middle of the field is open.
For the season, this is now the season, on throws of 10 yards or more in the air, Baker Mayfield has attempted 19 passes in the middle of the field. He has attempted 26 such passes outside of the numbers right. Again, numbers. We're not talking hash, we're talking numbers. He has attempted 13 passes outside the numbers left. Of Baker's 6 interceptions this year, 5 of them have come in the middle of the field, and on those passes of more than 10 yards in the air, down the middle of the field, he is 10 for 19 for 165 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. That has got to be, you think about, you're playing a team that plays a ton of cover 1, and you're playing a team that plays a ton of cover 3. You cover 3 beaters are deep digs. They are the if you run a verts on them, it's that seam ball. It's middle of the field. The middle field's technically closed when they play that single high, but you're working still inside the numbers, kind of those alleys up the middle once you clear the linebackers. There was none of that in our passing game.
Yeah.
And if you go back to some of these plays, again, that play action play to Jarvis, for those of you, and again, I recommend all Browns fans, get NFL Game Pass. If you're a true football fan and you want to really understand, the TV copy doesn't show you. You'll be able to watch the game and have an understanding. Say, oh yeah, when they talked about this play, you can go watch it and see for yourself. That play action on 2nd and 2, that was a middle of field throw that was open. And then you go to the 3rd and 1, Austin Hooper, middle of the field, open. And sometimes it's just a little late. The timing's not there. So I think it's two things. One, creating. You have to trust your eyes. You've got to be able to see. So I think it's creating clear vision sight lines with the football for Baker Mayfield to deliver it, and I think that'll get his confidence in it because he doesn't want to throw interceptions, and I understand that. But It's unfortunately a position that you've got to throw it before your guy's open. You've got to throw it with anticipation. And then the second part of it would be, I think maybe getting some more, into the screen game a little bit. We came into this week with the fewest number of screens in the NFL. We ran one to Kareem Hunt on a 3rd down that worked. We had another dialed up that would have been great, but the block didn't happen on that fake reverse. That was actually a screen that was going to have that could have been a touchdown if we were able to get it off. We didn't, though. And a couple of tight end screens. I thought when you watched what Pittsburgh did to get Ben maybe in that rhythm, there's a lot of that kind of just right the line of scrimmage, boom, get it out, run those little screens. So I think it's creating – I still think our ground game is fine. We played probably the best run defenses in the NFL back-to-back. I think you're going to have more success on the ground going forward. You do miss Nick Chubb, and it's okay to say that. Kareem Hunt is great. I do think he's a little bit banged up. You miss Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's a special player.
Well, you have 2 of them.
Right.
You have 2 of the top
They're always fresh
running backs in the league.
Yes.
As opposed to 1.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dearness has been great. Nothing against Dearness Johnson. He's played great. He's had huge runs against Dallas and then obviously the huge run against the Colts. I think really offensively our issues right now are centered around our ability in obvious known passing situations to have success.
Yep.
And so that's for people much smarter than we are. But I do think that there is a part of the field that is the staple of all good passing attacks that we're not utilizing. And conversely, they had a couple big plays outside on us in this one. That was a great – Money Mitch was in pretty good spot on Claypool. It was just an absolute dime on the one down the left sideline. Same with the one with James Washington. Then the touchdown was a little bit of a miscommunication over there where it was wide open. But they worked the middle of the field a lot. That's important. That softens the defense. That softens the linebackers. That softens the safeties. But it hasn't been there for us.
No, it has not. For more perspective, we go to the best of the business. He's our good buddy Jake Trotter, who will join us at the top of the hour. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family-owned and operated since 1932. They've been in business for 87 years, keeping neighborhoods clean and green. Their customers, employees, and communities are all part of the family. You visit Rumpke.com to learn more. Let's head out on the Fifth Third Money Line, joined by our good buddy Jake Trotter, ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Browns. Jake, where Nathan and I kind of sat on this, and we talked about it in the first hour of the program, I really wanted a four-quarter game. I wasn't so concerned. Of course, I desperately, from somebody who covers this team and loves them like I do, I wanted a win in the worst way, but it wasn't that important to me. I just wanted to go toe-to-toe with them in the third and fourth quarter, and that didn't happen, and that's a tough pill to swallow on a Monday. From your vantage point, what did you see? How did it go wrong so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think the non-competitiveness of it was very disappointing. And, there's a lot to be encouraged about by the way that this team has played this season. But really in the two measuring stick games in your division, your two rivals, you haven't even been in the ballpark. I mean, just not in that class right now. So that's a little bit deflating. But at the same time, we saw what happened in the Baltimore game, the way this team bounced back. They actually played the same team that they did after the Baltimore game in Cincinnati. You have to think about progression as a incremental process. And so, I don't think anybody thought that this team was going to win the Super Bowl this year, right? But there is still reason to believe that they will make the playoffs, which would be in of itself a monumental achievement for this team. And with the easiest remaining schedule in the league and a record of 4-2 now, I think they're still in pretty good shape. But there are some red flags from that game. I can't say that there weren't.
Jake, when you mentioned that, and let's just go ahead and ask, what are the red flags as you see them for this team?
Well, I think you have to start with the quarterback position. I mean, I think Baker had a QBR of 5.4 in that game, which scale 0 to 100 is the third worst quarterbacking performance in the NFL this year. And, it's kind of been trending in that direction a little bit. When you look at the second half against Indianapolis, Baker's not played well in about a game and a half. So, and I think the way that Pittsburgh was able to attack him, they basically gave other teams the blueprint. We're going to mix up our coverages pre-snap, and then we're bringing the house. And until Baker shows that he can defeat you and burn you doing that, everybody's going to be doing that. Everybody's been coming after him. And with the ailing ribs, I think that injury last week was worse than maybe people realized. It's going to be a challenge for this team.
Jake, when you covered him at Oklahoma, and you come out of Oklahoma and you're one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time in college football history. You have a second half of your rookie season here that it's historic. And you break Peyton Manning's touchdown. You're 2-to-1 touchdown to interception. You're 64% passer, like 270 yards a game average. You're 7 almost 8 yards an attempt. So all of these things were happening, and they were there. And he lived over the middle of the field. And this goes back to the OU days. And Nathan just had a stat about how we're just not even throwing it there now, that we're trying to live outside the numbers. That's a tough spot. From just learning a new offense perspective, obviously the amount of coordinators and offenses, it's all part of it. His adjustment to this where do you rate it at this point in terms of what he's being asked to do and what he was most comfortable doing at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think it's been uneven so far. And, I think the thing watching the game that was concerning, it seemed like to me, I don't know if you guys agree or not, but just watching the game, if the first read was not open, you could feel him get a little bit jittery in the pocket. You guys agree?
I think that's a fair assessment.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, and so, to succeed as an NFL quarterback, you've got to be able to work through your progression without getting rattled. And it just seemed like he was not able to do that against Pittsburgh. Baltimore was the same. And then, again, second half, Indianapolis didn't play well. So, they have done a good job putting him in position to succeed for the most part, getting him outside the pocket, which I think is where he really thrives. But you can't do that against everybody. At some point, you're going to have to stand in the pocket and make some plays, particularly when you're just not absolutely mauling people in the running game. And you're not going to maul the Steelers in the running game. You're not going to maul the Ravens in the running game. And he might be able to do that against, a Dallas defense that is in shambles, or, the Cincinnati Bengals. But you're not going to be able to run the ball. You're not going to be able to average 7-8 yards per carry against most defenses, most good defenses in the NFL. So it kind of gets back to you've got to have a quarterback that can, make some plays out of the pocket, and it just did not look very good on Sunday. And I think Baker was hurt. I think that played a big part in it, even if he doesn't want to admit it. But it was not that part. I think the goal is to get on the level with the Ravens and Steelers, and this team has made big strides, I think, this year. But man, it just feels like they're still a long ways away from hanging with those two teams when those two teams are really clicking.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it's look, we're still talking about a 4-2 football team, which is a wonderful thing to be talking about. And I know in the NFL you live with Sunday's result looming so large over everything that happens. But the Browns are 4-2. They have struggled, to your point, against the upper echelon. And I think we would all agree the next evolution for this team to say we can play with those teams is to be able to have to prove that you can win, not following the script of generating turnovers, getting easy points off of them, and running the ball down people's throats, but having to win a game where you're not able to do those things. Because the confidence that would come from that, I think, would be huge. But again, a lot of that falls back on what the quarterback is able to do. Your defense really won you the game against the Colts, given what happened in the second half offensively. And so that showed another variation. Now it's just that offensive variation. Can we, in a situation where we must become a drop-back passing team, have success? And that translates to the stat you pointed out earlier today, third downs, which is the money down in the National Football League.
Yeah, and they have not been good on third or fourth down this year. And, they have moved the ball well when they can get to second and four. But, again, against Pittsburgh, it's hard to do. You're just not going to run the ball that effectively, particularly when they don't think you can beat them from the pocket. They're just going to scheme up their defense in a way. I mean, they were teeing off early on in that game. It felt like they knew exactly what the Browns didn't want to do, and they were, kind of forcing them right into that. And, it wasn't just the quarterback either. I mean, defensively, this is, when Myles Garrett is not making things happen, I mean, it's not an elite defense by any means. And, I think it was clear that the Pittsburgh wide receivers had an edge in that game over the Cleveland secondary. So, I mean, it's more than just one issue. And again, there's a lot to like about this team right now. They didn't play great on Sunday, but the offensive line is clearly one of the most improved units in the league. You've still got firepower everywhere offensively. And, you've got a top 5 defensive player in the league in Myles Garrett. So, and Denzel, when he's been healthy, has been really good too. So there's a lot to like. But I just think, to what Beau originally said, it is disappointing when you're just not even competitive against these upper echelon teams. And I think that's the next step. When you get Baltimore at home, when you get Pittsburgh at home, I think if you want to be going in the right direction, you need to take those teams to the fourth quarter, even if maybe you don't win.
Right, you got to push them to the limits. Talk with the great Jake Trotter. Jake, what was it when you watched this game? Because it seems to me, I don't know if they're bigger. There just seems to be a physicality difference with the Ravens and the Steelers. And really, I won't even limit to everybody else the Browns have played this year, but to most games that I watch on TV, I don't see teams that physical. And I think that physicality is a hallmark, certainly, of what the Steelers do, but that's something you're going to have to be able to match as well. And Beau made the point earlier in the show. It's something you need to have in the back of your head in terms of how you are constructing your roster, because those are the teams you are going to have to deal with for a long, long time.
Yeah, and if you're going to, it's one thing to make the playoffs, Nathan, it's another thing to win a game in the playoffs. And those are the teams you got to have to beat to get into the second round. And it's, it's a bunch of different, there's a lot of different gaps you got to close. I mean, the Steelers have got pass rushers everywhere. The Browns got Myles Garrett, but man, they were dialing it up from everywhere. Whether it was, Dupree or Hayward they've just got guys everywhere coming in, and that's when you have an elite. You have one elite pass rusher, and then an entire elite pass rush. There's a difference, and I think, in the case of both teams, that's something that you've seen that's where the Browns got to get.
Jake Trotter, our guest on the Fifth Third Money Line. You guys both make a great point in terms of being prisoners of the moment, the disappointment of it, and the look of it, and the lack of competitiveness. The positive side, it is 4-2. It is Cincinnati this week. It is Las Vegas after that, and then it's a bye week. There is now, and by the way, Bengals are playing great. They took Indy to the mat in the first half before giving it back in the second quarter, but they scored a lot of points in their game yesterday, and the Raiders are playing better than what we're used to. But these are winnable games. These are games at the beginning of the year you'd look at and say winnable. Jake, beyond that, you play Pittsburgh one more time, Baltimore one more time, and Tennessee one more time. Other than that, it's got to be as manageable as any schedule in the league. Your goal was to make the playoffs. Stated goal, make the playoffs. That is well within reach.
Yes.
And that's an important goal for this organization to reach.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule. And, oh, by the way, there's an extra playoff spot this year as well. I mean, You just look at the playoff, the playoff picture in the AFC. I mean, there's some teams we know they're going to be there. But, I mean, the Browns are right now, even after the way Sunday went, I mean, they're sitting right there at the 6th spot. Las Vegas is another team that's going to be vying for a playoff berth. You would like to win that game to hold the tiebreaker over Indianapolis and Las Vegas, and then you would be in excellent shape. But, I mean, the Browns don't have to play that well to beat Jacksonville. They don't have to play that well to beat the Jets. They don't have to play that well to beat the Giants. They might need to play kind of well to beat Cincinnati the way, Joe Burrow's been pretty frisky. But, I mean, you can find 6 wins on this schedule without really even trying that hard. And I think, that's 10-6. That puts you in the playoffs easily. So I think that they are still in very strong position to snap the playoff streak. I actually, at this point, would be stunned if they did not make the playoffs. Now, they got a long way to go before they beat one of those playoff teams, probably, as we've seen this year. But I think that they have a great chance to snap the streak. And to me, that was the goal this season. Anything beyond that was gravy. And I think they've demonstrated that while they're probably not Super Bowl caliber, they are certainly a playoff caliber team. And I would expect them to bounce back and play well, just the way they did after the Baltimore debacle.
What are you going to be looking for the most this week and then on Sunday against the Bengals?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield. Just want to see him play better. You want to see him regain some confidence. I mean, I think that's the number one thing. And then, Joe Burrow lit you up last time. Can you hold serve a little bit better in the secondary? And Myles Garrett kind of took over that game. It felt like late, but pass defense, you're not allowing it to turn into a shootout where anything can happen. And then you just want to see Baker get a little bit of his confidence and his swagger back and make some good decisions. And I think above all, you want to get him healed up because you do not want this to be like a lingering thing where every week you're nervous for him back there, about to take a huge shot from somebody.
Yeah, that's it. Great stuff, Jake. Always appreciate your time, bud. Thanks for giving us a little bit of it today.
Okay, boys. See you later.
Thanks, Jake.
That's our buddy Jake Trotter, ESPN NFL Nation Browns reporter, calling in on the Fifth Third Money Line. A reminder, all guests who appear on Cleveland Browns Daily do so via the Fifth Third Money Line, Fifth Third Bank, making Cleveland Browns Daily a Fifth Third better. We'll take a look at what the defense did yesterday in the game at Pittsburgh. That's coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. 2020 helmet program are now being accepted. Zenith invites you to nominate your Ohio high school to receive $25,000 worth of new Zenith helmets. Visit promotions.clevelandbrowns.com to learn more. All right, let's take a look at the defense. And Z, I thought you did a great job breaking down in terms of what the defense gave you the opportunity to do, because I viewed it the way you did. I was watching with the boys yesterday, and on the field goal at the end of that first drive, I viewed that's a victory. That's a win. Get out of there with a field goal, fine. That is a positive. You take it. You're down 10-0. Then your defense bows up and gives you opportunities to get back in the game. You don't capitalize offensively. We've been over that. But I thought, considering the mash unit that we have defensively, it was a pretty good performance yesterday.
It was a good performance for a point. And then at some point you're on the field the whole time. The game is out of reach, and you're just getting physically, worn down. And that's what happened in this one. But what we're seeing is a defense that, unfortunately, outside of Miles, is not making a lot of plays in the pass rush game. So Miles has 7 sacks this season. Claiborne has 2, but those came in the first 2 games of the year. So he hasn't had a sack in 4 weeks. Olivier Vernon does not have a sack on the season. Larry Ogunjobi does not have a sack on the season. Now, to be fair to him, he's taken off the field in a lot of passing downs. Sheldon Richardson has...
He's been hurt, too.
And he's been hurt. Sheldon has 2 sacks, but the most recent came against Washington, so that's 3 straight games without a sack from him. So you're talking about, in the last 3 games, your front 4, despite all the attention that's being given to Myles Garrett, has produced no sacks by anybody not named Myles Garrett. So that's Dallas, Indy, Pittsburgh. Your linebackers don't have a sack on the season. Your other sacks have come from MJ Stewart on that blitz against Dallas. Tavier Thomas had one on a nickel blitz, and then Sheldrick Redwine got one on a nickel blitz this week, or on a safety blitz. So you've got a pass rush that outside of Miles, your whole defensive line's got 4 sacks. Period. That's it. That's the list. None for 5-star Porter Gustin, Joe Jackson, Vernon, none of them. No sacks. So
it's just 9 team sacks outside of Miles total, right? Because isn't it just 16 sacks as a team?
That's right.
And 7 of them are Miles? Yeah.
That's not good enough at this point. And so you're getting a little bit of pressure there. I think you've been a pretty good run defense for the majority of the season. This is a team that was going to test your linebacker play, and Mack, I think, is still getting back. And I was watching him. He's not 100%. He's not. He may tell you he's 100%. They're putting him out there. He's playing with the brace. So he wants to play badly, but I see him flexing his leg when he came off on the sideline. He's not comfortable. And what's good is his instincts are still good. You can still see him in some ways fly the ball, but his ability to finish, there was a tackle he had in the hole on Connor that he just didn't make. It's just not the same as you would have expected Mac to be. So hopefully that progresses as the season goes on. This was a game where this was the first team that attacked us on the outside with success. They were able to get Money Mitch a little bit. They got Denzel a couple of times, and that had been a strength for you. I think Kevin Johnson coming back has really quieted in some ways the middle of the field. We're not just slot receivers aren't just catching 10 balls a game against us. So Kevin Johnson being back certainly has helped. But there's still just I think the defense played well enough at the beginning of the game that had the offense played complementary football, you would have had a different momentum and an energy as this game progressed. And I think they were on their way to perform well. Again, against Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers over the course of 4 quarters in between the 2 games, they didn't allow a single touchdown.
Yeah.
Our defense is actually doing much better than you would expect. And I know it feels like, which is so weird, it feels like, woe is me on the offense. And yes, it didn't look good this week, but prior to this, 4 games, you're the number 1 scoring offense in the National Football League.
30 a game, yeah.
4 straight. So, and I granted, the defense helped out immeasurably, creating turnovers and short fields and all of that. It all goes hand in hand. There's no doubt that a lot of our offensive success, our defense, it's funny, was so much more maligned, but in reality, I think our defense has really kind of fueled a lot of what we've done, along with the ground game. And now the ground game the last 2 weeks has hit a little bit of a rough patch, and we've seen 6 out of the last 8 quarters of bad offensive football.
Yeah, it's really incredible how the defense has picked it up here of late and is playing at a level of which you can win games, and they're going to put you in a position to beat most of the teams that are on an equal or lesser than talent. This defense is plenty good enough to do all of that. Let's just also be clear about one other thing. We did not go in. It's not like we went into this season with this idea that we were a Super Bowl contender. Like, you and I did not. This was make the playoffs.
Yes.
We're very honest about how tough this division was. You're very honest about how good Kansas City is. This is year one with a new head coach and no offseason. None. No offseason to install nothing. To be 4-2 is a nice spot. Are you a contender with Pittsburgh and Baltimore? No, not yet. You're building towards that. This is the first year for this regime here. There is nothing fluky about the 4 wins. Nothing. Nothing fluky. That is all real, and that stuff travels. You'll see that this week against Cincinnati. You'll see it against Vegas 2 weeks after that back at home. And that stuff's real. But there are holes, man. I mean, we tried to get Clowney. You knew that you wanted to get a complimentary edge rusher for Miles who could really. Ngakoue, you tried. You attempted to get those guys in there. Andrew Berry sees the same things you're seeing, guys. He knows that they got to have some pressure outside of Miles on that front 4. He knows it. Yes. We all know it. It's year one.
Anybody who saw when the schedule came out and played the schedule game that had the Browns better than 4-2 at this juncture, come on. You played the schedule game. At Baltimore was a loss. At Pittsburgh was a loss. And I would imagine a lot of people thought at Dallas was going to be a loss. So you flipped that one. You knew you had to beat Cincy and Washington at home. So you thought you'd be 2-1 there. You didn't know if you'd be 2-2 or 3-3, but you wanted to at least be 2-2 in that first quarter. You hope you beat the Colts. And then you figured you were going to lose this one. Now, if you split these next 2, you're still 5-3. You win them, you're 6-2.
6-2. Yep.
This team is still right on track where you wanted it to be. It hurts because the 2 games that we as Browns fans were the most hyped up for, the measuring stick games. And the Cowboys was one. It felt like it was one. And then it went so well, it's in the rearview mirror. But the measuring stick games that you were the most excited for were Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Those are the division rivals. Those are the ones where you're trying to make it a rivalry. And those games, frankly, you were dominated. And so that weighs heavily on a Browns fan psyche right now on this Monday. There's no doubt about it. But if you went back and played the schedule game, and I told you before the season started, we're going to be 4-2 after 6. Yeah, we're going to lose to Baltimore. We're going to lose to Pittsburgh. Sign me up. Let's go. And that's where we are, with very much our playoff destiny firmly in our hands.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. And I do like, and I love what I'm seeing from this defense the last few weeks. You can't expect them. You've just been on the field so much by the time this game gets into the 3rd and 4th quarter that you just get worn out. You just get physically worn out. And I think that happened. But you're going to get healthier here, right? You're trending. I mean, there's good news coming out. Hopefully you're trending in a positive standpoint in terms of getting guys back, getting Harrison back. Eventually, Carl Joseph, you start to get healthier. These things will help. More guys in there. I thought Money and Sendejo played pretty good on the back end. Sheldrick and Sendejo played pretty well on the back end considering what we had seen. And I think you're right on the Kevin Johnson point. Like, that was a real problem earlier in the year, and it wasn't, and it hasn't been since he's been back. The slot is now taken care of.
And that's huge. And even though Ebron got that one catch they called offensive pass interference, he was right there. And Kevin Johnson's going to make plays the more comfortable he gets and the more reps he gets going back in. He brings a lot of stability. And I think getting Harrison gives you another playmaker on the back end. He's a guy that just has the nose for the ball. And it'll give you an opportunity. Redwine getting this opportunity. And, if Joseph's back and Harrison's back, I think you can see a lot of 3 safeties on the field. You can get back to what you were saying, because Harrison, I think, has been a real find in terms of his athleticism, his speed to the ball, his ball hawking, his blitzing has been good as well. That will free up Joe Woods to do more. But I think this defense, much maligned, has actually been a lot better than people think. It's funny, you look at the final stats in this one, and you felt like this was a game where it really – it got away from you. But the Steelers only put up, from a total yardage standpoint, 277, 4.5 yards a play. And it's not like it's because, they took the foot off the gas, late in the game, etc. It's not like in the first half they were lighting the world on fire either. They did a good job.
No.
You forced multiple 3-and-outs in that first half, and you did a good job. They had 167 yards in the first half. So they were on pace for 320. That's not going bananas. It's not a 400. They're gashing you up. You just need complimentary football. We didn't get it, and that's how ugly losses happen. And that's what this was. This was a better team beat you, and again, we have our path to victory. Our script is not hard to figure out right now.
No.
This is not our script. You want it to be. You want to be able to win a game in any way. You do. And I thought in Indy, you showed a variation with what this defense could do, scoring 9 points of its own, holding them to 6 points on offense in that second half. That's a winning formula too. Special team, if you want to say, hey, no huge returns in this game, that's a positive. We'll take it at this point. But there's still work to be done, but we're still, again, how much nicer is it to go and lose a game like this in Pittsburgh as we've done in the past, and instead of being 0-6, 1-5, or 2-4, you're 4-2, and you're saying we've got to fix all these things, but we're still 40% of the way to 10 wins with 10 more opportunities.
Yep,
that's a wonderful
position. That's the privilege
position.
of expectation.
Yes,
that's what comes with that, where you dig down hard on things when they go wrong and be critical and look for how can we be better at that. And that's what Kevin Stefanski and his staff is going to do this week. That's what these players are going to do this week for that trip down to Cincinnati, which is going to have a lot of juice to it, frankly. Cincinnati will be keyed up for that game. That game is going to be a fun one down in Cincinnati. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the week. We have the gift of a Monday night doubleheader, including a Butte at 5 o'clock. And a good one at 8:15, too. We'll do the scores, and we'll do that for you coming up next with the preview. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here from my great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Listen, guys, you go to them for any home improvement need. And this month, take advantage of their great roof offer. For just $1 down, 7 years, zero financing, you get the new roof that your home so desperately needs. The weather, it's turning. You can feel it. It's a gray, wet day out there. That's going to turn to snow and even colder. It'll be here soon. Don't get stuck in the cold with that leaky roof that you know that you have. Weather Seal can make your new roof a reality. They can do it in a week. Call 877-351-SEAL or visit weathersealhomeservices.com. That sale ends at the end of this month, the 31st. It's with approved credit. Prior sales excluded. 877-351-SEAL or visit weathersealhomeservices.com. Before we get to the doubleheader tonight, Z, what was the most eye-opening result for you in Week 6? You're on.
Good. We're on. I certainly, it began as the most eye-opening result, which was the way that the Bengals raced out to that lead against the Colts. Mm-hmm. They couldn't finish the job, and the Colts ended up getting the win. So that I thought was surprising. The way the Eagles got back in the game against the Ravens surprised me, but I think it's pretty easy. There was one shocker that happened, and that was the Denver Broncos going into Foxborough and beating the Patriots 18-12.
Yeah, so the ones you mentioned, Cincinnati offensively, and we'll have our hands full. I mean, they can. Yeah. It's 300 yards again for Burrow. They're mixing, getting going a little bit, and the rookie out of Clemson, Higgins, is off to a really nice start. They're really able to find him, and they got A.J. Green going a little bit. Cincinnati was impressive in the first half of that game. Their defense just is not one that can hold a lead. They're just not. The New England game, Denver did everything in their power to give it back. Locke threw two of the worst interceptions that you'll ever see in your life in the fourth quarter of that game, and New England had opportunities and just could not get it done, and they did seem rusty. Cam didn't look 100% healthy. He didn't look like his normal physical presence that he normally has. He threw a pick where he and the receiver just are on the wrong page at the end of the game that ends up being the one that clinches it. But Denver did everything they could to let them back into that game. The one that was crazy to watch in real time was Green Bay and Tampa Bay, because Green Bay races out 10-0. Rodgers hadn't thrown a pick in about 7 years, and he just throws a pick on an out that's a pick six, throws a pick on the next one that goes kind of off of Devontae Adams' hands and kind of breaking up, and another one, and then it was boat race city.
That was it.
It was over at that point, which was stunning to see Green Bay just kind of pack it in at that point and get hammered by Tampa Bay. I thought that was a real eye-opener. And I also thought the 49ers handling the Rams the way they did was a little bit of an eye-opener. I was surprised that the Rams weren't able to establish some run early in that game. They really weren't. I don't know if they thought they could win it through the air or what it was, but I was surprised that the Niners handled them, especially coming off of the way they played against Miami the week before.
Yeah, that was, and I got to watch a lot of that. That was the Pedro birthday spectacular as the Niners took care of their business wearing the Deons, which I love. I love that white uniform that they wear. It's a sweet uniform.
That's a beautiful uniform. Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not sure he threw a pass down the field other than the one to Kittle where he caught it and ran, but all but 40 of his yards were after the catch. And he had, I think, 200 and something passing yards, but all but 40 were yak. Kyle's a gangster. Kyle came up with obviously a great plan, did what he had to do, and they got it done, neutralized Aaron Donald, which was a pretty stunning thing to watch. I can't wait for better or worse, though, tomorrow, or sweet spot, because 4-2 Bucks coming off that big win, 2-3 Patriots. Ooh, you can almost taste the chalupa, yeah.
Yeah, better or worse, higher, lower, sweet spot, just right, is going to be a lot of fun tomorrow, because it's, and I don't know, if you say to yourself, who's the best team in the NFC, I don't know where I am right now after the way the Packers played. I'm not sure where I am. I guess I'll default back to Seattle just because they didn't play and they're undefeated and they're the best offensive team, I think, in that league, because this was an eye-opener. Green Bay getting beat like that was a bit of an eye-opener. I know weird things happen, but did not have a bit of a fight when it's after the two picks like that to go down 14-10 and then basically just say, yeah, we're good. We'll see you next week. That was kind of strange.
The way the Bucs D is starting to play,
yeah,
they're going to be really tough. They're not even close to firing on all cylinders offensively with Evans and Godwin.
No.
That hasn't even started.
No, it hasn't. And their defense, it's something that people slept on them who thought that they weren't going to be ready to compete, was how great their defense. Like, they are elite at linebacker. They're good up front. They're getting playmaking out of the back end. They're really good defensively, and that's something that will certainly travel. This is a fun Monday doubleheader.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a lot of fun. To 5 o'clock to have the Chiefs and Bills at 5 o'clock in Buffalo, that's fantastic. And to follow that up with Arizona and Dallas in the late game, big questions in all of these. Let's tackle the first game first. For Buffalo, it's what's your response? You got humbled last time out by Tennessee. What's your response? You get home, you get the Super Bowl champions at your place. Can you keep up with them? Can you win? Can you chase? And how do you impact Mahomes the way that Belichick impacted Mahomes a couple of weeks ago? How do you do that?
And for the Chiefs, how do you respond to your first loss? Both of these teams lost for the first time last week. The Chiefs lost to the Las Vegas Raiders 40-32, and now they go on the road. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be dreary there. What do we see? Does Le'Veon Bell get into the mix already this week? I don't know. I don't like it. I'm still going to pretend that trade never happened. Come on, Clyde Edwards. Right. Nonetheless, this is a good one, and I think how both of these teams respond. I could see the Bills saying we are for real. And I also could see the Chiefs just coming out and being like, when we're focused and we're locked in, we beat everybody. And we took it to the Ravens, and we're going to take it to the Bills here today.
And an interesting spot in that last game because the NFC East is a disaster. It's a tire fire. It's just absolutely an abomination. Dallas playing with Andy Dalton in that offense. I think they'll get back to doing a little bit more with Zeke and not so much relying on the pass game. I think they'll get back to that a little bit. And Arizona, after a really hot start, some uneven performances the last few weeks. What does that look like as Arizona has to try and keep pace with the Rams and the Niners and Seattle and Dallas division where, I mean, are they in first in that division right now?
Yeah, 2-3.
Is 1-4-1? 2-3 is number one in that division.
Yep.
I mean, it's just dreadful. It's a fun game late, too.
You know what's interesting about this one is no Chandler Jones. So Arizona's defense doesn't really have any kind of a pass rush without Chandler Jones. Their defense hasn't been great this year. And, for Cliff Kingsbury, a lot of people call him the offensive innovator, etc. They run the least amount of pre-snap motion of any team in the NFL, do the Cardinals. They just spread you out, and they run that offense. And they still haven't gotten their ground game going. This would be a game for Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds to finally maybe get some running going. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think the line I think it's a good line. I'm very curious to see how this one. These are two great fun games. They're going to have a lot of fantasy relevancy for people that are still, their games are still in the balance tonight. So, yeah, these are two great ones. And I think with the scores, you can make the case either way.
Give me time on the scores. Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it. Let's do the scores. We've got two games.
You want to do it right now? I guess we should.
Or do you want to do it after the break? Do you want to do it after the break?
No, we can do it right now. We got time.
Yeah, because I want to say there's so much more to come.
Yeah. No. That's tease them. Yeah. Leave them wanting more. That's what I tell everybody. Kansas City, Buffalo. The Chiefs just arrived. Is it Ralph Wilson Stadium? What are we calling Buffalo Stadium these days? I feel like there's a sponsor there.
Was it New?
Well, it was New Era.
Is it New Era?
I think that went away.
I think that's gone.
Oh, might be gone. Weather looks a little wet there. All the rain that's been here now hitting Buffalo right now. Buffalo with a couple healthy scratches on some decent defensive linemen as well. And Kansas City going into Buffalo. Zegura, we'll start with you.
I think both of these quarterbacks are going to put on a show tonight. I think it is going to be fun to watch. Two of the bright young quarterbacks in the league. But Josh Allen still not quite ready for prime time. Mahomes certainly is. I don't see the Chiefs losing 2 games in a row. Chiefs 31. Bills 27.
Oh, wow. Pay attention to the scores, kids. I'm with you. Lots of points are scored in this game. I think both teams score a lot. I think Kansas City really pulls the other arm out, and I think they remember they have a run game, whether it's with Lev Bell or just Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm not sure. But I think Kansas City wins the game 38-31.
Wow. Just remember, Kansas City shows up in the big games, and we haven't seen Buffalo do that just yet. All right.
I don't think Buffalo's not fraudulent though. They're good. They're legit good, and I was wrong on Allen. I just don't know if he's ready.
I mean, I'm definitely. I
Listen.
think we're all wrong on Josh Allen, but I don't know. I'm still not buying into the Bills 100%.
Joe Public back in the Chiefs, big in this game.
Huge.
Monday Night Football.
Watch for that.
The actual Monday Nighter. Arizona traveling to the Big D. Dallas hosting the Cardinals. Did Van Der Esch get brought back?
Yes,
off
he's
of IR
on the
today?
53. Prescott to IR. Yes.
That's what I thought. So
You are
Dallas
correct,
with some
sir.
reinforcements maybe for that defense. This one could be interesting. Arizona, since week one, I don't think there's been a whole lot that's been impressive about the Arizona Cardinals. Segura, would you agree? Your second home?
Listen, this is Beau's opportunity to go first here, so I'm going to allow him.
Yeah,
I'd like to
I'd be
hear some
happy
of
to.
his
I would be
persuasive. But
happy
the
to go.
Cardinals,
I like
Gibby always wants-
letting Nathan go
I
first.
always
You have
have to-
nothing left when you go to talk. I'm kidding.
You'd love to do that. That's your move.
Yeah, it is.
Make
That'll
me
be
at
my
the
move
end, so
tomorrow.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
I know that's how you roll. Listen, I actually think Dallas will be just fine with Andy Dalton. I also think that if you're Cliff Kingsbury and you're Kyler Murray and you're DeAndre Hopkins, who didn't grow up in Texas, been supposed to his career there, like this is the showcase game. Kyler Murray grew up dying to play for the Dallas Cowboys. His first game in that stadium as a pro, and he's played there a lot in high school and in college. As a pro, I just feel like he balls out. I just think he's one of those guys when the bright lights shine, he's ready to go. I think he plays well. I think Kingsbury calls it up well for him. I think Dallas will be fine. They'll probably end up winning that division. I think they'll be fine with Dalton. But I think Arizona wins this one. A bit of a shootout, 38-35.
this one's so close. I wish I could have what Gibby has when he watches the games, where he's ahead of real time, when he's ahead of reality.
That would be good.
Yeah, where I'm on delay
Ahead of
watching the
reality,
action live.
which is hard.
It's hard to do. It's amazing. But my crystal ball is at the cleaners. I tend to agree with you. I saw something today that said that Kyler Murray has the fourth most wins of any quarterback in AT&T Stadium because he's 5-0 there in high school and 1-0 there in college. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 6-0 there. I think he keeps it going. I do think this is going to be a shootout. I mean a shootout.
Yeah.
I'm saying Cardinals 44, Cowboys 42.
Oh, gosh. There you go.
That'd
There
be
you
fun.
go.
I could go
Still,
for that. I could go for two good Monday night
Gonna
games.
be, I think you're going to get two good games.
I hope so.
You get two good games. Going to be fun. Fantasy games are going to be wrecked tonight across the board. All right, lots more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Join the Brown season ticket member waitlist today for the best chance at securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Deposits start at just $100 a seat. Reserve your spot today by visiting clevelandbrowns.com. Obviously not a lot of pure joy today, but we will turn the page or start tomorrow with the Bengals. And remember, you're still a 4-2 football team with all of the goals before the season very much attainable to you.
Yeah, you're right where you would have wanted to be playing the scheduled game, and you have another opportunity to get to 5-2, but you've got to move on. You got to watch the film. You've got to learn from it. And as we talked about some of the potential fixes that need to happen, and some of it's offensive, a lot of it's, again, this was a team loss. This wasn't an individual loss.
Yep.
There are improvements that can be made, though.
Next level coming up next. We're back tomorrow. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.